Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. When I was dead broke, man, I couldn't picture this. 50-inch screen, money green, leather sofa. Got 2 rides, a limousine with the chauffeur.
Hello there, I'm Parsons with Review My Games, and I'm sorry it's been a while since I put a review up. I'll try and get the next one up sooner, but I've been really busy with college work and that. Plus, whilst editing this video, the laptop decided to fuck up on me and wouldn't accept the file. But enough about my personal life, let's get into the review. This is a review of Resident Evil 4, and I hope you enjoy it.
Resident Evil 4, or Biohazard 4 as it's known in Japan, may have the number 4 in the title, but it's actually the 12th game in Capcom's survival horror series to be made, and it's number 6 in the list of games in the main series. It was first released on the Nintendo GameCube on January 11th, 2005 in North America, January 27th, 2005 in Japan, and March 18th, 2005 in the PAL region. It was then released on the Sony PlayStation 2 on October 25th, 2005 in North America, November 4th, 2005 in Europe, November 11th, 2005 in Australia, and December 1st, 2005 in Japan. In 2007 it was released for Windows on March 1st in Australia, March 2nd in Europe, May 15th in North America, and June 7th in Japan. It was then released on the Nintendo Wii on May 31st, 2007 in Japan, June 19th, 2007 in North America, June 29th, 2007 in Europe, and July 5th, 2007 in Australia. On February 1st, 2008 it was released for mobile phones in Japan, and it was released for iPhones and iPod Touches in Japan in July 2009. I'll be reviewing the PlayStation 2 version. Now that all the boring release information is out of the way, let's get into the actual review. The game is set in 2004. Umbrella's secret activities have become public, their officials have been prosecuted, and the company has gone bankrupt. It's the end of Umbrella. Leon S. Kennedy from Resident Evil 2 has been recruited by the US Secret Service and has been sent on a mission to rescue Ashley Graham, who's the President's daughter. He travels to a rural village in Europe where Ashley has been taken by a mysterious cult group called Los Iluminados, which is Spanish for the Enlightened Ones. The leader of the cult is called Osmond Sadler, and he's injected the villagers with a mind-controlling parasite known as Las Plagas, which is Spanish for the plague. Leon and Ashley get injected with it too, so Leon needs to find a way to remove the parasites from their bodies as well as take Ashley back to America. I did enjoy the story to Resident Evil 4 very much, although I do wonder why they decided to end the T-Virus plot. If they wanted the enemies to be different, they could just say that the T-Virus mutated so the zombies showed more human characteristics. That way they could have them using weapons and being generally more intelligent than the earlier games, but they could still stick to the story that the fans have come to love. A lot of the fans got pissed off by Capcom's decision to completely remove the zombies that Resident Evil games were famous for and replace them with these new enemies. I for one am on both sides of the argument. As a fan of the old titles, I do miss the old enemies when playing this game, but I'm not unhappy with the enemies that are in the game. If they kept the enemies as zombies that we know and love, then this game would have been too easy. The quicker enemies make it harder to react in time, which adds tension and makes the whole experience more frightening, which is exactly what you need in a survival horror game. The game uses a third-person over-the-shoulder point of view, and you aim your weapon using a dot sight. This is slightly more difficult to aim than weapons with a scope on, but again this is a good thing as it creates tension. Some weapons though do have a scope on, like the rifle for obvious reasons. The reason being it's a fucking rifle. I like how they've remade the series gameplay, as the old gameplay was getting too boring and Code Veronica X showed us that we needed something new. As you progress through the game, the enemies get harder. The normal villagers start growing creatures out of their head which has pretty good range and can instantly kill you if your health's low enough. New enemies also get introduced. One of the scariest enemies you get introduced to, I'll say one of the scariest, it is the scariest, is the Regenerator. They walk towards you in a slow but intimidating manner and occasionally leap out at you with tremendous speed, and if you shoot off its limbs they just grow back, hence the name Regenerator. The only way to kill it is to use the rifle with an infrared scope and shoot the parasites in its body. Then it just explodes, which is kinda cool. The boss fights vary from not that difficult to holy crap what the fuck do I do now, and the last boss is quite close to the top end of that scale, until you realise what to do and get into a good routine. Then he just becomes quite challenging. One boss is a military guy by the name of Krauser. The first fight with him is just a quick time event, so how difficult you find that depends entirely on your skill at quick time events. My experience with the God of War games has got me very used to these, so I didn't find it that difficult. The second time you fight him, he's a bit harder. The best way to take him down is with the knife, as that damages him the most. However, that means getting close to him so you can actually hit him with the knife, and that also means that you're close enough for him to hit you. Just so you know, the knife damages him the most, and only him. Don't go for the whole game thinking that your knife's the most powerful weapon, because you won't get very far. Speaking of weapons, the weapon system for this game is very nice indeed. In previous games you'd just find a handgun, a shotgun, a machine gun, etc. but in this game each weapon type has multiple weapons for you to choose from. For example, you could use the Punisher, which is a handgun, to shoot through 2 enemies at the same time, although it is the weakest handgun. Or you could use the Red 9 handgun, which, when fully upgraded, is the most powerful handgun in the game, but takes up more space in your inventory than any other handgun. The new weapon system was a good thing as it added a bit more variety and slightly personalised the gameplay. The graphics for this game were absolutely top notch for its time, and even now can be recognised as really nice PS2 graphics. The environments are detailed and realistic, but they are a bit dull. This isn't a bad thing though, as the depressing scenery only helps to add to the atmosphere. All in all, I have to say well done to Capcom. They took a series that was slowly and painfully dying and managed to save it. They made a game that's fun to play thanks to a much needed change in the series gameplay, and made the graphics look great too. There's not a lot of bad things I can say about this game, except that although the series did need to be redone in terms of gameplay, that didn't mean the previous games had to just be ignored. As a fan of the series, I didn't like how within the opening clip they just ended everything that has previously happened in the series and then carried on like nothing had ever happened. They could have used the same gameplay and had the same type of enemies just by saying there was a mutation in the T-virus, and that probably would have been enough to keep the fans happy. However, other than that, this game is brilliant. There's excellent gameplay, excellent graphics, and even despite the lack of zombies, there's still an excellent story with excellent characters. Even though fans of the series get pissed off about it, if Capcom changed the name so it wasn't Resident Evil, then changed the character's name to something like Liam S. Connolly, and gave this same game to the fans, they'd probably not have any problems with it whatsoever, because it is a brilliant game.
So, with all this in mind, I'm definitely going to give this game a really high score. It's a really good game, and its over-the-shoulder gameplay has inspired many other great games after it, such as the Gears of War series. In terms of being a survival horror game, it is great, but in terms of being a Resident Evil game, there is a little something lacking from the storyline. That something being zombies. As a fan of the series, this makes me just want to give it 4 stars. But as an unbiased game reviewer who's looking purely at the gameplay mechanics, I have to admit it still has near perfect gameplay, and despite the disrespect it gives the previous games in the series, it's still a brilliant game, with no visible flaws to the gameplay that I can see whatsoever. So, I'm going to give it 5 stars. That's my review for Resident Evil 4. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll try and get the next video up as soon as possible. My next video review will probably be Resident Evil 5. I don't think I've got any other video reviews planned except for the Resident Evil series so far, so it will probably be that. I don't know whether that'll be my very next review. I might do some written reviews first before I post my next video review, but I know some of you have been waiting for my review on Resident Evil 5, so I will try and get that done as soon as possible. Obviously I've got to play through the game first before I can review it. So, until next time guys, I'm Brad and that's my review. It's a really good game, and its over-the-shoulder gameplay has inspired many other great games after it. What? As a fan of the series, this makes me just want to give it 4 stars. But looking at the game as an unbiased... Fucking hell! I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. Focus, I'm a professional. In terms of being a survival horror game, it's great. But in terms of being a Resident Evil game, there is a little something lacking from the storyline, and my fucking phone's ringing. What?